Just 1 second. Give me a minute here. Welcome to the Gonzo Radio Sports Desk. Our return from the hinterlands of Nevada, Las Vegas even. The coffee's flowing today. By the way, when you take a vacation to, or even just a trip per se to Las Vegas, you do not go right back to work. You got to take a day off. Hey, I'm Big Daddy Gonzo. That's the Maz.
What's up?
I'm going to drink my coffee while you talk.
Yeah, we went to Vegas.
Your first time?
My first time. It was okay overall. I mean, company was good. You and I had fun. We can travel together. We figured that out. But in terms of Vegas itself, it's a busy place. There's a lot going on up there in Vegas.
We didn't even have time to do like a go live or any crap like that. But then again, the internet was kind of crappy inside the casinos too. The reception was shitty. So.
Yeah. Well, you know what? We went. My focus. I'd never been, like you said, and it was exciting. You know, the thought of going out there because we're the sports guys and this is what we do. We really enjoy it. And I was really, really looking forward to doing some damage out there, which we did. Okay, overall, it was a successful trip, but. There was a lot of stuff. I don't understand the industry, I guess, because apparently we're all into this fantasy football stuff. It's pretty popular if you haven't heard about it, right? I mean, I don't know. It's maybe a $4 or $5 billion industry right now in this country alone, not to mention the worldwide implications of fantasy sports. Okay, it's everywhere. But you figure, I would think Vegas has got it figured out. They're going to give you, again, Vegas is in the business of making money, so all they got to do is give you opportunity, and then they're going to cash off that opportunity. Okay, you don't win, nobody wins in Vegas. But Vegas apparently hasn't gotten the memo that there's a lot more action available if provided to guys like myself and many other fantasy guys that look at things like player props. Okay, it's a big, big miss, in my opinion. Well, a lot of action can be taken on these player props. And I went through, and we were in both casinos, both the Caesars and MGM and whatnot. And we looked at, I looked at their sheets.
Did you call Caesar's Palace seizures?
Did I? Maybe because when I left her, I think I felt like I was having a seizure.
No, just your ear started bleeding.
Yeah, well, that's it too. We'll get to that in a moment. Anyway, just disappointed in the sense that they just didn't have enough options. For me, it was an accessibility issue and an availability issue. Availability in terms of being able to play the sorts of action I was looking for, and accessibility, which would have been just not 4 tellers sitting there with a line 30 people deep trying to get their plays in for whatever action they were looking for. Because you got everything, too. You do have the horses, you had games, you had soccer. I mean, anything sports related they had. It just seemed like they didn't have enough of the individual sports. It was like, take a few bets here and throw a few here, and then you look and you're looking at all these boards. But overall, just disappointed. It just didn't have enough of the football player side props that is the backbone of fantasy sports. That's what we try and do. We try and predict player performance. Not a good idea. Totals, sides, go to Vegas. Player props, stay home.
All right. Like I told you before, Las Vegas doesn't give a shit about fantasy football. They just do not.
I know.
You can't play your DFS while you're there because they've got like some sort of magic internet block.
I know Vegas does well, but they're not. They shouldn't be in competition with DFS. It should be a co-relationship. One leans off the other. You can't put on any TV show now, football, baseball, and not have a DraftKings commercial or a FanDuel commercial. Is this not what we're doing here?
I understand. Okay, but let's remember who runs gambling. No matter what corporate logo you put on it, okay, no matter how you polish it up, okay, it's our friends, the legitimate Italian businessmen.
Yes, the trash collectors.
Yeah, the trash collectors, the restaurant supply guys.
Yeah.
You know, they bring you your bundle of napkins every week, your cloth napkins. Yeah, but we don't use cloth napkins. Yeah, you do now.
Yeah.
All right.
I get it.
They don't give a fuck. They just don't. And yes, we're cursing. I don't care. I'm done. I'm done tiptoeing around. I see other shows on Bleacher Report and everything, and they're FFF, and I'm like, you know what? NSFW. All right, we're gonna fucking curse. But anyway, they don't care. Vinny, Guido, Big Johnny, Little Johnny, Petey. They don't care.
Well, somebody should get them the message.
That fantasy football crap is going to dig into their action. And believe me, sports betting is the holy grail. Okay, they'll let you sell weed. They'll let you sell. They'll be in on the legalization of cocaine, fentanyl, and painkillers. Okay, or excuse me, painkillers are supposed to be legal, but they will. You know what I mean? They'll be in on that. They'll lose any other action. They'll give up the hookers. They'll give up the murder for hire. They'll give up all of that. But you're not touching the betting. Okay, the betting is their purview. They'll give up loan sharking. But you're not touching the betting. The betting is their purview.
That's fine.
And they...
I get it. But somebody should give them the memo and explain to them there's
Vegas
money to be
made.
made.
Allow it. Nevada ain't going to allow it.
All right. Well, they should because it's the backbone of sports right now. Nobody in this country is watching a end of a 4:00 game between... I don't know, let's say the Lions and the Bears, unless they've got action on it, or unless they're from those two cities.
Right.
So whether it's gambling action,
massive cities, by the way,
or / fantasy action, okay,
right.
which is another, again, huge component of this entire thing. It's driving sports. It's going to be the backbone of the sports industry,
right?
Because not only will they allow now sports betting in more of these cities, which is happening now, more of these states are allowing legalized sports betting.
Right.
Why? Again, it's about offering the number of opportunities to place your wager. That only increases the house's odds. That's how they make money, is by allowing you to place action. They know over the long haul, for many of a myriad of reasons, whether it be money management or just not being able to be good at what you do, they make money. The house always wins. Okay, in the long run.
Listen, I'm not doubting any of that. Okay, what I'm saying is, you know, along the lines of what in the movie Goodfellas, what does Tommy say about, oh, lightning hit my club, oh, this caught fire, oh, I had a bad month, and what do they reply to you with? Fuck you, pay me. Okay, and that's what it is. Somewhere down the line, DraftKings said, I'm not paying you. And Nevada said, well, we're going to shut off all our IP addresses. And you can't get internet access in the state. Okay, all you can do is play your little free games. That's all you can do. Okay, you'll be lucky that we allow people to actually log on to your sites. Okay, why? Fuck you, pay me.
Listen.
And they said, no, we'll go to the sports themselves.
I'll say it again.
Which is what they did. They went to all the major sports themselves, and then they paid them, which was probably cheaper.
DraftKings...
Okay.
Like any other business, if you're a car salesman, and you have 100 cars on your lot,
right?
You're going to probably have a pretty good business because you'll probably move those 100 cars.
Sure.
But if you put 500 cars on your lot,
right,
you're going to increase your volume, you're going to increase your sales, and increase your bottom line.
Right.
That's what DraftKings does, is they give you now what they've learned through COVID, is they offer everything. They offer Counter-Strike, League of Legends,
right,
simulation, fake sports. You can do that.
Guido wants his cut.
But that's not DraftKings' fault, because DraftKings realizes in the fantasy sports industry, because it's the fastest growing industry, not just in sports, but probably relatively in anything, in any area.
In entertainment.
Why? Because those guys making the decisions get it. Okay, you don't grow unless you're successful and smart. So it's my opinion to this matter that it's not the sites like DraftKings and FanDuel and Yahoo Sports and the rest.
Right.
It's Vegas and the guys like you mentioned perhaps calling the shots going, no, we're not interested. Stay on your side of the street. Big mistake. Okay, because again, more volume in this industry creates more money, more sales, more opportunity, more people invested, which is, again, when the house wins, when the house has the cards, you want as many people at your table as you can fit to make the most you can. And Vegas is falling short in this. And I've been to the Bahamas. Again, you would expect them to be slightly behind in terms of what they do. Much smaller scale.
Technologically.
Well, that and much smaller scale. I get it. Went to Vegas, the Mecca. And the Mecca fell short, in my opinion.
Right.
So,
well, listen, a big part of that, okay, all you have to do is go to countries that have had legal institutionalized gambling. Okay. Have you ever been to the UK? You've been to London before,
I've never
right?
been over to Europe. Never.
There are betting parlors like Starbucks.
Oh, I'm sure, because of soccer,
I mean, like every
other sports.
neighborhood has a betting parlor, and they bet on everything.
I know they do.
Okay, so what you're seeing is Vinny and Guido out in Nevada, And and I think Atlantic City, you can't bet on Atlantic City either. I think it's
Jersey is a state you can do DFS.
You can do DFS now.
Yes, yes, you can. There's only about 7 or 8 states. Most of them are out west.
Right. Well, and they're mostly knuckle dragon troglodytes anyway. So
that's their problem.
That's their problem. But when you have institutionalized legal gambling, it's a part of society. Okay, like England. Okay, they take action on everything.
I know they do.
Anything.
I know they do.
And what this is it's Vegas's, and I say Vegas as a metaphor for our good friends in the sanitation industry. They're legitimate Italian businnesmen.
And one's very important Jew, Meryl
Ansky.
That's who started it all.
Las Vegas.
He built it. He helped. He helped. And then he went to Cuba for a while.
Anyway,
they got to figure it out over there. But they're falling short in the
right. But they want to control the action. Okay, what is that? League of Legends? You bet on a DFS, right?
League of Legends, yes.
League of Legends. Okay, they also that's not the only video game that people put action on.
Well, League of Legends is an encompassing entity, I would, for lack of better explanations, of many different things.
Right, but
Counter-Strike and Modern Warfare and all kinds of things.
Right.
So that's, I think, all kind of sort of tied into that.
But it's a video game skill competition.
It's called esports, essentially.
Esports.
Yeah, so it's esports.
Yeah, well, you think Vinny wants to, handle 25 G's worth of action on a video game? All right, what do you want $2,000 on Mario Kart? What are you, the stupid turtle thing?
I get it.
You're the dragon thing? Bowser? What the fuck is a Bowser anyway?
But if somebody were to get inside that organization and say, Vinny, sit down, let me explain something to you. Let me show you how this works. Vinny would be like, okay, that's pretty interesting. Let me get a piece of this.
I'm sure there have been talks. But then that Vegas came at DraftKings and came at FanDuel and said, here's what we want. Here's the cut we want.
I agree with that.
And they said, no.
They couldn't settle it.
They said no, and they went directly to the sports themselves.
Yeah. It was licensing. If you remember, about 3 years ago, there was this, when DFS was really pushing hard, then the states, some of them at least, were like, well, wait a second, what is this DFS? And they caught on,
our cut?
And they wanted a piece. And then they went through legislation. It was almost not legal in Florida.
Right.
But again, fortunately, with our governors and our politicians, they were pushing enough in the sense that it's not gambling. It's a separate entity. And again, I think the major fight was with the Indians, was because, again, like the mafia, for a lack of better terms, is they have a hold on what it is that they do. And they were afraid to bring anybody in.
There's no such thing as the mafia.
They were afraid to bring somebody to the party.
There's no such thing as La Cosa Nostra, organized crime, whatever it is that you call it there, Senator.
Yeah, but the Indians have realized that, hey, listen, we can make a mint here too. And I'm hoping at some point, at least down here, because the talk is that we're going to be getting a sports book, I guess, at the Hard Rock, or at least sports betting in Florida, that they will give us many options, because we're looking for options.
Online. Put it on the Teleo phone right here. Put it right here. You can get at least $200 a week out of me every week. Okay, $200. As it is, DFS, if I have a bad day, they get $20, maybe $25 out of me. If I have a good day, I get, I net a couple of hundred if I have a good day. Okay, so
I can't wait until it becomes
legal. I'm good for $2, but I'm actually pretty good at betting on football. So
I can't wait for it to be legal. Not so much for me to go down there,
right?
But so to be able to help everybody else make it,
right?
Yeah.
Well,
that's going to be the key. So yeah.
What was our net in Vegas? We had a nice big net in Vegas.
Well, again, not to beat this drum. I had 14. /player props, a few side action things going. I did all the work.
I'm talking about what we could actually place bets on, not quit beating that drum.
Well, I'll tell you, I had 14 of them going in. I only could do 5 of them. I went 3 and 2 in those 5. I went 8 and 1 in the others, which I couldn't put in. But so overall, it would have been a very, very good trip. But we still did pretty well. Everything we touched was positive. So
we did well.
Yeah, not many people come home from Vegas with the money they left with. So
and he held me back and kept me from playing 4, 5, and 6 to 1 parlays.
Yeah. It's just not smart. Do not give the house any more advantage than what they need.
That guy right there, I turned into Fred Flintstone. Bet. But they're like $5 parlays.
No, you could have bet those if you wanted. But again, it wasn't. If I was in a cubicle
They're like 50-1
with
for
my
$5.
notepad, my little computer, and a kiosk that allowed me to do anything I wanted to do, that would have been a wonderful experience because you would have had options, you would have had availability and accessibility and all things I complained about. But that's not the case. It's a crowded cluster of confusion. And not my thing. Won't be rushing back.
We won't be rushing back.
We'll be rushing back to Vegas anytime soon.
I will say this, okay? I almost want to apologize to you because it was your first time, but Las Vegas is different now because, of course, COVID kind of screwed things up there.
Yeah, a few things.
And because of the COVID spike that they've had there, you saw how crowded it was, right?
Yeah.
Who would have figured they were going to have a spike? Here at the back end of a pandemic that's still going on, who'd have figured? And now you got to wear masks everywhere.
When are we going to run out of people?
You got to wear a mask to take a dump, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
So one thing that I noticed, and I mean they've only been open for about 8-9 months now, or reopened about 8 or 9 months now, and I got to tell you, the level of service. Listen, Las Vegas used to always be just like Disney World. They used to be like, it was slavishly upbeat, positive service. Yes, sir. No, sir. Sure. Hey, how you doing? The first time in Vegas? That. Even though I've been there 20 odd times, they was so first time in Vegas. I'm like, no, I just gave you directions. One of those deals. So. But it's off. It's different.
Yeah.
The service is a little darker and surlier. I felt like I was in Pompano Beach. We had our first night there. We had a hostess try to play us to get a tip to get moved up the waiting list.
Moved up the chain.
She kept saying that. Well, okay, we'll put you on the waiting list. And, you wait around a few minutes and the bar is packed. Okay, the bar is packed. So we're like, we'll go out front and wait, and there might have been shenanigans going on out front. But we come back in about 10 minutes and I go walk past her and not even saying a word to her, walk past her to look at the bar. And I come back and I meet you over at the front door. And she goes, you just got moved up one on the list. And I'm looking to the left. Dining room over here. Maybe half the tables are full. Maybe less. I look over here. Less than half the tables are full over here in the bigger dining room. We're getting worked. I've never had anybody try to work me like that before in Vegas. And I've been to some of the finest restaurants. I've been to some of the seedier dive, off the strip restaurants. And nobody's ever tried to work me for a tip like that before, which is kind of,
I mean, I
sideways.
understand the whole thing. We in our industry too. Obviously, we make our money on tips as well. So there's little tricks and things that we do to try and stimulate the opposition, I guess you can say, to try and grease us a little bit. Yeah, whatever you want to call it. But so listen, it's part of the industry. I understand it. She wasn't disrespectful in any way though, but she was creatively.
Dishonest?
Well, I guess to a degree, yeah. That was her way of saying, hey, listen, I've got rent coming up next week, and I need an extra 20. So,
it was fuck you, pay me.
Yeah, well, I didn't.
Okay, I got 20 empty tables, and there's these nebulous, mysterious reservation people coming in.
Party of six, Jones.
And they
Party of
never
six.
showed up.
Yeah.
Okay, because when we walked out the door, the dining room was still half empty.
Yeah. But food was amazing.
Food was fantastic.
Had a great steak.
But you're not getting a name plug. Blame your hostess. That our dozens of viewers are not going to know who you were.
Dozens. We have more than that. So,
shush.
Takeaway from week one quarterback play. Who do you think stood out?
I'm not done complaining about Las Vegas, but okay.
I'm done hearing about Vegas. Quarterbacks, right? Interesting week one in the NFL. Anybody stand out? Any games, any things you're like, wow, that was impressive? Or anything?
Well, you're asking the questions around here. What are you, the host now?
Well, I'm just saying. I just want to see.
You go to Las Vegas one time, and now you're a big shot.
This is what we do around here. Hey. So, I don't know. I'm
smart guy.
What do you do? What do you think?
All right, what do I think? Okay, we have a very interesting. That's right. Everybody's going to watch you drink coffee.
I'm thirsty.
We have a very interesting slate of games, very quarterback-centric. I would have to say first and foremost would have to be Justin Herbert versus the Dallas Cowboys.
Oh, you mean today we're talking
Today.
about? Okay.
I was just looking in the week.
I was looking back just in terms of what we took away
last
from week
week.
1.
Oh.
Yeah, like our takeaways. Because, again, my angle here is going into how at least we agree on this whole quarterback thing. Everybody's had their draft. Everybody's looking at either 1-0, 0-1, looking at their team going, wow, I had a great draft, or wow, God, I had a shitty draft.
Or,
Which,
I'm going to have to go pick up some free agents.
In all reality, you're probably somewhere in the middle. We all had good drafts, okay? And we basically may lose a player here or there. That will determine it in our waivers and stuff like that. But it's week 1. We don't draw major conclusions from week 1. But
God, I hope not, because I came busting out the gate in the Diamond Dolls League and just dropped a 107-point turd for the low score of the week.
Yeah, it's pretty
I
bad.
just went,
yeah.
meh.
Well, again, you have to assume your guys are going to play better this week. But if we look at the top 10 quarterbacks from last week, 5 of the 10, I'm going to go 6 of the 11, were probably not starting last week for your team and your fantasy. You may have had them. They could have been on your bench, but more than likely. So in order, the top 10, Kyler Murray, massive week. Patrick Mahomes, we know what he does. But here's where it gets fun. Number 3, Jared Goff. Okay?
It's like,
Yeah, drop the mic. Number 4, Jameis Winston. Okay, probably on most benches, people were like, okay, let me take him because he just got announced the starter, which was like 3 days before the season started.
I drafted him on both of my leagues.
Yeah, Jalen Hurts, also probably not on many starting lineups last week.
Unless you're an Eagles fan.
Derek Carr, Matthew Stafford, Tyrod Taylor. Everybody had Tyrod Taylor last week, I'm sure. So that's pretty much the top 10 of quarterbacks last week. Now, again, that probably won't be the same this week. These things change from week to week based on matchups. But if you look at where we go week to week overall with quarterback play, and certainly by the end of the year, we preach it, I preach it, about getting that quarterback in the 6th round. Be the first guy to get your quarterback in your league. Hurry, hurry.
I did.
Because that usually plays out not. Okay, and it certainly didn't play out in week 1. Now, Patrick Mahomes was 2 on the list. Most people took Patrick Mahomes as the first quarterback taken. That works. But outside of the first 1 or 2 guys, whoever you think those 1 or 2 guys are, you wait, and you wait, and you wait, and you play the board, and you take best player available instead of just filling out your roster. So, on the contrary, the other positions this week, or last week, wide receivers and running backs, a lot of the familiar names were in the top 10. Okay, the Dalvin Cooks and the high-end wide receivers and stuff like that you predictably knew were going to have good weeks, and they did.
Right.
That's going to change from week to week as well. But bottom line is, interesting first week. A couple of teams stepped out that you didn't really think you had on the radar. Houston was one of the teams we liked, although it was against Jacksonville.
I told you.
They dominated from start to finish.
They made a lot of mistakes.
We talked about it. We had said about how Houston's got a lot of old guys coming back. And Jacksonville's a new kid on the block, a bunch of young kids. And Houston put the smack on them from opening kickoff to the end. That Jacksonville was never in that game. So some surprises. Tennessee kind of shit the bed. Okay, you thought that offense would be a little bit better with Julio Jones. Didn't happen.
No, they didn't kind of shit the bed. They all the way shit the bed.
Yeah, so again.
Got some on the pillows.
There are storylines, but again, it is week 1. And, oh, by the way, they even added a week this year. So it's not the do-all, end-all for anybody this week, regardless of whatever your performance was last week. So It's a new start this week. It's week 2 in the NFL. We're excited. We're happy. And we have some things that we like.
Well, don't try and tell me to not get excited or worried or, as you Aaron Rodgers fans say, relax. And that's a fine enough segue right now for us to segue to your good buddy,
51 and 48 on the road.
Speaking of one of those surprises, we're going to go with a surprise in the other direction.
Okay.
Which would be Aaron Rodgers, which would be Allen, which would be who else surprised in a negative light? Really?
We mentioned
Ryan Tannehill.
I was just going to say we mentioned the Titans with Tannehill. Yeah, didn't have a great game.
So there were some guys that went the other way with that.
There were. I guess we can start with my friend Aaron.
Your buddy, your pal.
Again, I'm going to stick with it and say that it's going to be a long year for the Packers. I'm not going on the back of week 1 only. I was consistent leading up to week 1 and prior and last year and such when you got a guy that has been pretty out forward with the media, pretty honest about his feelings, pretty honest about what's going on.
Bitchy.
I'm not even going to pick sides in this right now. I'm just going to say facts. Facts is that Aaron's not going to be with the Packers next year.
You're not taking sides in the civil divorce?
No. Facts are that when things go bad in life, this is for anybody in any profession, any walk of life.
Any relationship, let's call it that.
When you have an out, okay, you gravitate towards the out when things start to go bad where you are. Okay, you've already committed to the other side. So it's just the only thing that's stopping you from getting there is time. Is your commitment to where you are. But that commitment only goes so far when you know that commitment's about to end. Okay, yeah. And it's about to end.
Grass is greener.
And you may not give as much when there's when there's more at stake, but less of a return. Again, that's human nature. I'm not blaming Aaron for that. I'm not blaming him for looking forward when he knows that that's where he's going to end up. You did a lot of things to consider in life.
He actually said that this was probably more like his fourth preseason game. And that's the reason why the sloppiness, that's the reason why the blown assignments and miscommunications that led to all of those interceptions.
Well, you got to put it on something. I mean, he's certainly been in the league, 11 years now, 12 years. So
no, but go get him. I served him up on a platter for you.
Well, my point is,
Let him have it.
I just don't understand why that would be your reason for being in the league so long, where you need to get on pace with the guys you played with last year. So I'm not on board with that. Listen, coach speak, player speak. It's very easy to look at those and go, "That's what that is." Because
whoops, my bad.
We see on TV the small sound bites of these things, but these guys are talking with the media all week long.
Right.
They're answering questions all week long. They're on the radio shows all week long.
They
got to get tired.
They have their pet reporters, for crying out loud.
Not only that, but they got to get tired of saying the same stuff over and over again.
Yeah.
So when you're tired, let's go back to Aaron in this situation. He's tired. He's frustrated. He's looking the other way. He's trying to plan it. Listen, things are going to be said, and if you listen, you're going to hear certain things as the season progresses. And I just don't see how, unless everything falls in line for the Packers week after week, that they're going to be good this year. I really don't. It's the NFL, and teams are going to be looking at the schedule and going, Green Bay, Aaron's got a foot out the door. They're struggling, perhaps, certainly after week one. Let's go get them. So now tomorrow night's not the example, because Green Bay is 8-0 at home under Rodgers on a Monday night. Hasn't lost. They're playing the Lions, so we know how that script's going to go. The division still sucks. Green Bay should win the division. They probably wouldn't have won the division if Jordan Love was starting quarterback. But the fact that Aaron Rodgers as the quarterback is in place, then it makes no bit of difference in terms of the player. The Bears, although they looked at times decent last week, new quarterback. The Lions are the Lions. And the Vikings, well, they got pushed around by the Bengals last week. So
pushed around.
Who, in terms of anybody, is going to give the Packers a fight in that division, regardless of whatever happens down the line? They may just be good enough just to win the division. But I'm telling you, come playoff time, when there's a little bit of stress, a little bit of turmoil, and Aaron is even closer to being 1 foot out the door, I just don't see how they're going to get to where they want to be this year. Sorry, Green Bay. That's just my opinion.
Well, that was a very good segue. We were going to actually cap the day with an Aaron Rodgers rant, but we were going to do DFS. Now let's get to DFS right now. Then okay, because I mean we kind of got into leagues and and overreactions for your second week and don't panic and all of that, telling everybody don't panic, but. And also, spotlighting some of the breakout stars, some of the guys who either due to injury or due to winning the job outright in the camp.
And there's actually one more game. There's one more game that I want to kind of get into a little bit if you want to. Is obviously people are going to look at the most important game of the week, perhaps the preview of the AFC Championship, perhaps Ravens and Chiefs. Okay.
You mean 3/4 of the Ravens?
Whatever it may be, exactly. Minus a few coaches.
5/8 of the Ravens and the Chiefs.
Running back by committee. We've heard that term thrown around. I got a call.
Now they're the over-the-hill gang. They got 3 1,000-yard rushers.
I'm not ready to put the Ravens in that discussion with the Chiefs. They like to compare these two teams, and I think more or less it's the quarterback comparison because they want Lamar Jackson to be as good as Patrick Mahomes. But I'll say this. Even Lamar came out and said that the Ravens are his kryptonite. Okay, I'm sorry, that the Chiefs are his kryptonite. Yeah, sorry. And I get it. He's 0-3 versus the Chiefs, okay? You can break down games and talent and whatnot. But for me, it comes to this. The last time the Ravens have had a 1,000-yard receiver was 2016. It's before Lamar even got there.
Right.
Now, you're going to argue, okay, it's game style. He runs the ball a lot. They're developing his passing game. I get all that stuff. But when you analyze games or I break down games, what I do is I'll take the top 10 players on each team and list them and go in order. When you do that with these two teams, 6, 7 of the top 10 guys are all on the Kansas City side of the ball. So you want Lamar Jackson and the Ravens to be as good as the Chiefs. The problem is that you need it to be Lamar as good as everybody else on the Chiefs because they just don't match up. The top 3 receivers in the last 3 years for the Ravens have been in order. Last year was Hollywood Brown. The year before that was Mark Andrews, and the year prior to that was John Brown. So you got 2 Browns and an Andrew. Okay, right. One of those guys, I think it was Andrews, got over 800 yards. Now go to the flip side when you look at playmakers in Kansas City. I mean, I could throw you 6 guys that
bing, bing,
at any
bing,
point.
bing, bing, bing,
Watkins
bing,
when
bing.
he was there, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, Hardman, Robinson. Any running back they put behind the line it gets 1,000 yards every year.
Right.
So they've always got guys that can make plays. Hence, when these two teams, who they're considering to be the Goliaths of the AFC, I don't think Baltimore can hold that. I really don't think that they're there. So big game for them to win, in my opinion, at least at this part of the year. Lamar's going to have to be Superman, which they want him to be. And I just don't see it. Kansas City looks pretty good already this year. So,
well, okay. Let me spotlight something for you in case it's something that is an out of left field shock and surprise. But if Le'Veon Bell is activated and he gets a chance to play against Kansas City, let's remember how he left Kansas City. Okay, he said, yeah, I will retire before I play for Andy Reid again. Okay, so if that guy who has been forgotten, and you know him very well from his time in Pittsburgh.
yes,
he's been forgotten. He's an afterthought. He's a guy that got picked up and put on a practice squad.
okay. But there's reasons.
Okay.
Listen,
but if he gets activated and he gets carries, how wild do you think Le'Veon Bell is going to run?
he's going to run angry.
Yes.
But are you afraid of a motivated midget?
No.
Okay, me either. So,
just cover your nuts.
well, I'm just saying.
Just
if
get a little block down here,
you got
and don't bend down so he can punch you in the face.
you got 6'5" wrestler over here, you got 3'8" midget over here. 99 out of 100 times, unless something happens, big guy's beating midget. But wait, midget's really angry. Midget's ready to come to the party today.
Donkey Kong the shit out of him.
You know what's happening? He's still getting beat up. It doesn't matter. So,
But he's going to try to get a shot in the nuts on you, though.
he's going to try really hard. Listen, I liked Le'Veon Bell when he was a Steeler. He just, in the last 4 years, he's been irrelevant. He's been in a few different teams now.
If his agent is the one giving him the advice that he has taken over the last 5 years, your agent screwed you, pal.
Yeah, so-
screwed you.
I don't think
hard.
I don't think the Chiefs are worried about Le'Veon Bell. Now, granted, that's not to say Le'Veon Bell's not going to run his lights out and do the best he can, whatever. They're football players. They have pride. So pride counts in the NFL. I get it. It's
Right.
an angry sport. So if you play a little angrier than the next guy, you probably have a better day.
If you, speaking of proposition bets, if you were able to get a prop bet on him for this game, whatever prop bet that is out there for him, over under on his total yardage, over under on his scoring, I would take the overs just on the odd chance. And once again, it's an outlier. It's an odd chance.
Right.
Okay, because there's 2 guys ahead of him in the rotation, and that's the kid, the Williams kid that got elevated.
Right.
Who, by the way, had a good game.
No,
and
we have him actually picked him up.
And 35-year-old Latavius Murray, who keeps playing.
Yes, he does.
What is it, like his 7th team now?
Yeah.
But he's he's a big, 235-pound, very talented running back.
Right.
So there's a couple of guys ahead of him in the depth, on the depth chart. But if Le'Veon gets in and gets carries, this could be a motivation game, a revenge game for him.
It could be.
Could be.
If Vegas had done their homework, which they do when they create these lines, if Vegas created whatever that number would be,
Right.
then you could then choose a side.
Right.
But it's not something I would look for.
Stupid ass Vegas.
I'm not. Yeah, F Vegas. So it's not something that I would look for. But
B
again,
minus.
looking at a number, then I would be able to maybe then pick a side. But
Right.
I don't think the Chiefs are worried about Le'Veon Bell today.
No, I don't think so either.
just don't-
but
don't think
hey, it's a miracle.
It's a wrinkle.
Okay, on to DFS. So okay, no Le'Veon Bell in DFS today.
No, stay away from
Leave him
Le'Veon
alone.
Bell. Yeah.
Although there's going to be almost no ownership of him in DraftKings, and
Anywhere.
he may be $2,600.
Don't know what it'll be.
Leave him alone.
Yeah.
All right. So a lot of hot matchups today.
Yes.
A lot of potential for some serious shootouts today.
Yes.
So which players do you think are going to be on the receiving end, the beneficial end of those shootouts?
Well, if we go with popular, which is okay.
Popular?
Depending on
What
what
do we
you're
know
doing.
about popularity?
Popular, this is the argument with popular. In DFS,
We don't know shit about popularity.
one of the struggles I have and what most people have is trying to determine ownership. Okay, and
Yeah.
DFS is very important because you want to separate, especially some of these larger field tournaments,
Right.
where you got guys entering multiple lineups, or you're going against thousands or plus more people.
You want to be one of the 9 guys
Yeah.
holding on to Teddy Bridgewater.
You want the guy that's 2 and 3% owned that goes off.
Right.
Okay, so again, popular is on your weekend leagues and stuff where you're in your home leagues and you know you got a guy that's solid to start. That's a Justin Herbert this week. What does he have? 37 straight 300-yard games. He's the greatest rookie of all time.
Color me
Okay.
an idiot. I'm all over Justin Herbert.
I am too. I got him in daily. Listen, again,
I got him in dailies. I got him in both leagues.
he's going to be one of the top 3% owned quarterbacks in daily this week.
Herbert,
Okay?
if you have a bad day at the office, you are going to screw me so hard.
Along with a lot of people. So is that a smart play in DFS? Is it a not a smart play? It's a smart play in cash games when you're
Yes.
just trying to beat the guy next to you.
Right.
But in large field tournaments, when he's going to have 30% ownership, you want him to pull a hammy in the second quarter and not give anybody any points for the rest of the game. That's not something I'm hoping for because I'm going to have him, but I'm just giving you the example of how DFS and how it can benefit you and or hurt you works.
Right. Well, and one thing that I did, and for every popular player I pick that's in that 30 percentile, okay, that 35% percentile, I go for another player that will be further down the ownership volume scale. Okay, I mean, I balance it out because you do have to. Sometimes it's matchup and player and scheme versus matchup player scheme. You know, a certain player goes up against a certain really stupid bad defense.
Yeah.
At home, and all the factors are in play. You're like, this guy is a lock. Okay, we get a lock, even at 30%. But then you come back, and your running back is going to be like J.D. McKissick, who, by the way, no joke, homeboy scored, 14 points?
He took away my carries
Thursday
from
night?
Antonio
Exactly.
Gibson.
Exactly.
SOB.
Yeah, well.
Why is he getting the ball inside
He's
the
Captain Handcuff,
in the
man.
5-yard?
He's been Captain Handcuff.
Yeah.
Ever since he played in Seattle, he was Captain Handcuff.
When
So-
you're doing the DFS, it matters.
You gotta
in
balance it
terms
out.
of what you play. If you're in larger field tournaments, you want some of that separation from the rest
Right.
of the field. So you do want to take a shot on some of those guys.
Right.
Now, you're not just taking a shot to take a shot. It's an educated guess. You're looking for guys with high ceilings,
Right.
not necessarily worried about their floors.
Right.
That's what you do for DFS. And that's the advantage of multiple lineups because you can take 10 of those guys, if you which I saw what you sort of did today, which is, let's talk about that. If you like players, and you can include Justin Herbert in your core 4, let's say for a simple example, let's come up with a core 4.
Okay.
When you have your lineup of 8 or
Now
9
I'm
guys,
calling lineups up.
you have to, in your mind, give yourself the core 4. Now, that core 4 could be any position, but it's just 4 guys or team that you're plugging in that you feel really comfortable about.
Right.
It's smart then to take a series of many number of players that have the high ceilings. Guys that like a J.D. McKissick, that, in most weeks he's going to get to 6 points. And each of those weeks he probably is only 2 or 3% earned. But if you have him the week he goes off for 20 at 2 or 3% owned, then you got yourself something. So that's where the multiple lineups, the getting your established core, which you need to hit on essentially, and then move forward with getting guys that are high ceiling guys to round out the other positions to cover a variety of different lineups. And that's how these guys do it when you're doing multi-entry large field tournaments.
Right.
But I like to focus more on the cash games, the more consistent type games. It's a little easier. Most of them are 50-50s. You're just trying to, all I'm essentially doing is, hey, you give me your lineup, I give you a lineup, and I got to beat you. So that's, to me, a little bit more consistent. It's a little bit better in terms of your money management. And we talk about how when you're doing this, it's best to put a lot of your focus each week into those sorts of things, the cash games, the 50-50s, and take a few shots with some of those larger field multi-enter team tournaments, stuff like that, because that's where the big money is. So quarterbacks, if we want to go maybe like to say the top 3 or 4 who we like this week.
Well, first of all, Justin Herbert is a big duh.
Yeah, he's on top of the list.
Yeah.
The other side of the ball in that same game, Prescott. Going back to last year, his first 5 games.
It's going to be a shootout.
He was averaging over 400 yards a game. Last week, Zeke got the ball 12 times, which means Dak threw the ball 1,000, which means guys like Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb.
58 times.
And Dak certainly are in play this week if you're looking at Dallas. And you, again, something we always talk about too is we talk about when you're analyzing games is game script. You want to try and figure out in your mind ahead of time where you think the game's going to go. And I think in a situation with Dallas, do you think they're going to blow Chargers out? Probably not.
No.
More than likely, either one or two things happen. They get blown out, which puts them in situations of plus yardage and garbage time, or it's competitive, which would mean
it's a shootout.
If you're on LA's side,
shootout or a blowout,
you got to be on Dallas's side because they got to keep up. So that would be, and to throw terms out like game stack. You hear that term sometimes. Game stack is taking multiple players from the same game.
Right.
I don't think you can go wrong on either side. That would be a complete game stack. Taking a guy like Cooper, taking a guy like
Elliott,
taking a guy like on the other side of the ball, going with Keenan Allen, taking Justin Herbert. You know, getting 4 or 5 guys from that game, because if that game blows up the total and they go for 70 points, guess what? You're probably going to do pretty well. So that's going to be maybe popular. The popular may be to pick guys from each side. The not so popular is maybe load the whole game. So that's an option. That's something to consider as well.
All right, then.
Yeah.
So a guy that really was kind of surprising that not a lot of people jumped on it. He was fairly reasonably priced this week was Tom Brady. I mean, he was actually reasonably priced at $6,900.
5th or 6th, I think, in terms of the
Sixth,
quarterbacks?
yeah.
Overall?
Yeah. Reasonably priced.
Yeah.
Especially going up against the Atlanta Falcons at home. So he might be your bargain sneaky play. Okay. I mean, I don't think $6,900 is necessarily a bargain.
No.
But it's below that premium $7,000 and up price.
Let's go game script.
He's going to get a lot of production out of that $6,900.
Game script for me in that game. Atlanta looked really bad last week.
Horrible.
Their offense looked bad. They were never in that game. You got to think Tampa's defense didn't play great last week. They're going to play better this week. So if Tampa, who should win this game handily, what's the line in that game? It's big, isn't it? It's like 11 or something.
Very large. Very large. I couldn't tell you right now.
It's tough to focus on the team that's home, that has such a large spread, because you kind of think that I could see Tom getting crazy in the first half.
Right.
To get to that point where you're like, wow, Tampa is really beating their ass. It's 24-6 at halftime. Brady's 15 of 20. He's got his 180, 2 touchdowns. Great start. But what are they going to need from him in the second half? If they've got that lead and it's late in the third quarter, then guess what? They're not going to put Brady in situations where he's probably going to have to throw the football. And they're going to be using the Ronald Jones and the Leonard Fournettes and whoever else they got running the ball back there. So I tend to shy away from home teams that have large spreads because from the offensive perspective, I'm worried about the blowout. I'm worried about
a lot of potential for disappointment.
I'm just worried about the back end of that game. I mean, listen, in order for a team to get to that cover, they've got to score.
Right.
So they could get 3 touchdowns pretty quickly. Let's say, again, Brady's first half numbers are big. That doesn't help you. It looks good in the first half, but when you're falling down the leaderboard in the second half because nobody's producing for you offensively, that's something to be very considerate about. And I don't think Atlanta is going to come out gangbusters today in Tampa when they're just 2 different teams.
Yeah, and then in the second half, they just start handing the ball out to Ronnie and Leonard.
Or whoever. You know, again, at that point, they're looking for guys just to get that game over with.
But by the way, how embarrassing would it be to get run over by a guy named Leonard?
Unless he's Kawhi. There's a few Leonards that are good in sports.
Leonard Floyd.
Yeah, or Myers Leonard.
All right, well, one of my bargains, my big bargain of the week.
Quarterback?
Nope, at running back.
Oh, we're going running backs. Okay, go.
James Conner.
Interesting.
Against the Minnesota Vikings.
Interesting.
The Vikings have injuries up the middle, including Barr at middle linebacker and Sheldon Richardson? I believe it is. Everson Walls up the middle, defensive tackle. They have injuries on the defense. The defense wasn't that great last week,
Right.
And Arizona's at home. And they seem to be splitting the carries evenly. I mean,
I got numbers on
Connor had 16 carries last week.
Connor out-touched Chase last week.
Out-touched Chase.
But I will say this.
And can catch the ball.
Connor had more carries in the fourth quarter when that game was a little bit out of hand.
Right.
So if you think that's how
control
it's
the clock.
if you think that's how it's going to go this week versus Minnesota, then maybe James Conner could be a low-end flex option. I believe that. I was questioning whether to start him as a flex in one of the leagues I have him in as like my
I
third
caught him
running
for
back.
4,400 last night.
He's not a bad play. He's got to get in the end zone for you in order to make value, though.
I understand that.
And if he does that, then you're probably sitting at about 18 points for him. I think that's his ceiling.
Yeah.
I'm worried about guys like that in tournaments. Again, when you're in these tournaments, you need high ceiling guys. You're not expecting it's almost a boom or bust mentality.
Right.
And for Connor to boom, he has to get in the end zone twice. Game script really has to favor them this week for him.
Right.
And again, that's a low price point. I get it. For a cash game, he's a solid play because that will give you, if he gets that touchdown, then he blows out value in terms of where his numbers are.
Yeah.
And you can therefore spend money elsewhere on a higher floor guy.
Which I did.
For your cash games. So
you know who my higher floor guy was?
For running back or for
flex? For flex. You said he was a low end flex option.
Okay.
I went high end on the flex option.
Because you save money on Connor.
Tyler Lockett.
I think that game goes
another
out
shootout game.
Yeah.
We're thinking shootouts. All right, let's go over the shootouts. Now we know for a fact. Well, we're very certain for a fact that the Chargers and the Cowboys are going to shoot it out. Pew pew pew.
Everybody's on that.
Both teams in the 30s. Maybe Chargers score 41. It'd be 41-31.
Yes.
But then we go to Seattle, Tennessee with a chip on their shoulder because they came out and absolutely shit the bed.
Yes.
In week 1.
They did.
I mean, how in God's name does Chandler Jones get 5 sacks over Taylor Lewan?
I don't know.
A guy who at one point was an all-pro off left tackle. I mean, it was they came out and they dude.
Yeah, at some point you have to give your line some help.
Well, they have a new offensive coordinator. They have a little bit of a new scheme going. I understand all of that, but at some point you got to get that running game going. Exactly. So that's what we're both looking for. Is we're both looking for Derrick Henry to get going in that game.
I believe you will.
And to get that play action going and get Julio Jones loose out there, and everybody's expecting that Vrabel is mad at Jones, so that now what? Vrabel's not going to throw the ball to Jones? No, don't be silly. So we're looking at a shootout there.
I'll give you 2 games that I like for shootouts this week that may be under the radar.
Well, we've already talked about 2.
Well, 2 other ones that are under the radar.
Oh, there's more.
Under the radar.
Okay.
Like, again, we know the Chargers are going to shoot out. We know Herbert's
What'll
going
be
to shoot
under
out.
the radars?
I like Philly and the Niners this week to shoot out. I think that Jalen Hurts showed that he can play. I think that their young receivers can play. I think the Niners, obviously, they put up some points last week. They can beat you in a few different ways. I think Jimmy's a little hungry this year. All the talk about the backup and about where he's going and being traded and, whatever. The Niners travel well, generally, so I don't think that's an issue. And, again, I just think that if you looked at that game last week with the Niners, I was surprised because they got out early. They looked really dominant in that game.
Right.
And then Jared Goff threw for like 170 yards in the fourth quarter. So what happened?
Which you were touting that Goff was going to put up some numbers.
He almost got his total in the fourth quarter last week. So what happened? I didn't watch the game, but I can tell you that I don't think it was purely the fact that San Francisco came off the gas because it was really bad in like middle third quarter, end of the fourth quarter. Detroit came back and almost won that game. They were within a possession.
Right.
And that would have been one of the greatest collapses of week 1 that we had seen in probably many years.
True.
But it didn't happen. Niners got the win. But again, so I'm going on that, going on the fact that, okay, let's say the Niners, who probably should win this football game, repeat last week's performance. They come out, they score, they move the ball. Philly looked good on offense too last week. So
and then they relax, and here comes Philly.
Either way, because Philly certainly looks like that they're going to be at least offensively pretty good this year. So I think that game shoots out. The other game I like to shoot out this week, which is a little under the radar, and I'm telling you, I'm going back to the Packers again. Green Bay is going to come out this week and try and look good offensively. They should. They're a better team, right? Aaron's probably a little bit upset about hearing all the noise this week.
Have some personal pride, for crying out loud.
They are going to win games. He is still a great quarterback. They're still a good football team. So as much as we bang on the Packers.
Wait, Sunday, September 19th, you said that Aaron Rodgers is still a great quarterback. Okay,
yeah.
Just making sure, because people say, wow, he really hates Aaron Rodgers.
Put it out there. I think he's a great quarterback. I just don't think he's a winning quarterback necessarily, or he's the best quarterback for the Packers right now. But this week will not tell that story. This week you'll have Aaron Rodgers throwing 3 or 4 touchdowns, and everybody will be in love with the Packers and Aaron Rodgers again. But Detroit, the same way they came back on San Fran last week, I think they're going to do the same thing for Green Bay. So I see a game script in that game where Green Bay does what they're supposed to do, and Detroit hangs around and can move the football like they did last week against the Niners, who are a much better defense than Green Bay. And I think that game goes over the total again this week too. So we'll see how that plays. So those are my 2 under-the-radar games that are going to, I think, shoot over the total, which is the Niners and the Eagles, and I think the other one is going to be Detroit and Green Bay.
All right, then.
That's my picks.
All right, well, then let's go position by position then. Who is going to be your running back of the week?
My top running back of the week. Man, that's tough.
Top.
Do I get silly or do I go popular?
No, listen. Popular is popular.
Okay.
Everybody's going to be able to figure out popular. It's always a high ownership percentage, a high price. Who is going to be Let's call it instead of your best. Who's your value running back for the week?
My value running back this week is going to be Najee Harris of the Steelers.
And he's a value guy?
Well, value guy in terms of just, again, going 3X maybe on his money and his returns. I just think that Najee was, and I have it right here, I think he was
right over there.
Yeah, like the 5th or 6th best running back this week overall. Actually, no. He's the 8th best running back in terms of pricing on DraftKings.
Oh, that's a good one.
I'll take it. Obviously, Steelers are home. They play much better at home. Raiders on a short week, even though they looked really good in that game. Although Baltimore gave them that game, they still look pretty good on offense.
Well, one of the guys that made their defense look good is out. Gerald McCoy, out for the season.
Yeah. It looked like Najee Harris is going to be a focal point in the offense, and the Raiders don't stop the run particularly well. To me, it's Najee Harris.
Even less so without McCoy.
Yeah. So I think since game script will probably have the Steelers winning this game, I mean, obviously they're going to want to get Najee the ball. So he's a guy at 8th or 9th overall in pricing is going to be a guy today that I'm looking for a high upside play. Guy can get in the end zone at least once.
Right.
Multiple volume guy, carries maybe 4 or 5 catches too. So.
And who's your value wide receiver?
Well, going back to my lineup, I had to save some money in the receiver department because I spent up at running back. Because the other guy that I have at running back, who I really like this week.
Well, I spent in the flex because I used my value pick for James Conner at 4,400. So I went and I got Tyler Lockett in the flex.
I like Seattle's offense. We talked about that game shooting out today. Value receiver, again, is it a value guy? He's priced down a little bit, but he's a guy that for some reason just doesn't get a lot of attention. And, of course, he's on a team, Jacksonville, right now that struggled week 1, although he got in the end zone. I like DJ Chark this week again.
DJ Chark.
I just think that Urban Meyer is going to just throw and throw and throw and throw and throw. And any game script. I mean, Jacksonville's going to win games this year. Even if they only win 3 or 4.
I have James Robinson.
I know. Well, he's one of their playmakers. He's going to be involved in the offense, obviously, too.
But he likes to run the football.
Give me a game script in any situation where Jacksonville's ahead, behind, whenever. It's just Chark, throw the ball. I think he gets his again, then he gets in the end zone. So Chark is my guy.
All right. Okay. How about this one? Who is your tight end pick of the week for those leagues that require a tight end?
I'm going high.
Leagues that don't require a tight end, and one that can be a real big producer. I mean, it's usually the same animal. So.
I preface this all the time. I am the worst picker at tight end when it comes to DraftKings. Okay. I struggle week after week. This week, I'm not playing around. Right to the top. I got Noah Fant this week. I'm really high on. He was actually ranked consensusly number 1 this week, going against Jacksonville, who was terrible against tight ends.
Well, of course.
I have him. Darren Waller last week had 84 targets in that game.
Yeah.
So he had 19 targets, I think it was.
Yeah.
And they're going to be behind. They're going to be throwing the ball. The Steelers' back end's really good, and they've said they're going to mix up coverage on Waller. They're going to throw safeties at him and wide receiver and corners and double team.
They got Minka Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, they're going to have to. But Waller's a beast regardless, and he could be one of these guys that'll end up like a Kelsey, like just matchup proof. He'll get his.
Right.
But I'm on Noah Fant this week. I think he's going to get his.
All right, then.
So that's my guy.
And last but not least, who is your sneaky good pick for value for kicker? What kicker do you like this week?
I was just going to say no kicker. We don't play kickers. Next question. No kicker.
Okay, defensive special teams.
I got the Steelers this week. They looked really good last week against the Bills. They shut them down overall, pretty much. Allen made a few good throws. We watched the game. He played really well. But that defense is all over the field. T.J. Watt, the pressure up front, the back end.
The newly freshly paid T.J. Watt.
Yeah, he got paid and well deserved.
Marched into the old man's office, shook his hand, and said, "I'll take it."
Yeah.
Well, okay. Well, you want to sit down and sign your contract? No, I'll stand. Signed the contract, shook his hand again, and went back out to practice.
Yeah, I think we get to Carr today a little bit, and I think we create some turnovers on that side. So I like the Steelers' defense at home today. I just think that in order for the Steelers to be any bit of viable this year, and again, I'm not going based on week one because I think we suck. Honestly, offensive line's bad, quarterback play is bad, and when you start your sentences off with those two sentences on a football team, it doesn't end well. Okay,
Right.
It never does. But we're 1-0. We're at home against an inferior team. The defense is the strength of our team. And I think that in that situation today, we rally around the defense. We create some turnovers, block a punt. Who knows? Crazy stuff. It's the Steelers.
Yeah.
And so to me, it's Steelers D today, maybe even getting a defensive score.
All right, then. Wow, how concise. Well, we can actually probably wrap this thing up before noon and actually go and finish the rest of our picks.
We got
What?
baseball.
No baseball.
What?
No baseball. We'll talk about aliens first. How about that?
We got 2 weeks and the season starts.
What was that Netflix show that you made me watch at the Airbnb?
Yeah, we watched about 10 episodes of that.
What the hell was that show?
I don't know. It's another unidentified aliens, like UFOs, something classified.
Oh, my God.
There's a lot of shows out there for that right now.
A lot of really plausible crap, though.
Interesting, though. Yeah, they always are. Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's almost like the long explanation version of Independence Day 2, where the aliens came and attacked, and we not only beat them back, but we grabbed their technology and we, reverse engineered it, and now we have your shit.
Whip their ass.
And then we whooped their ass. So yeah, that was wacky, and it's especially creepy to watch something about aliens when some of the stuff that they're talking about was like literally like about 2-hour car ride away in Nevada, the Nevada desert. So
we slightly considered taking the trip, but man, those Uber
no,
rides
we went
are
to the
so
Fremont
expensive.
experience. We saw enough aliens there.
Yeah, there was a few of those
There was some alien life forms there too.
winged creatures.
B
amongst
minus
us.
Vegas, B minus, be better.
Wow.
All right, well that's going to wrap things up for us now, because now we have our own little things to do. We will catch you guys next week at the same bat time, same bat channel. Unless
Sure.
are you going to Aruba or anything like that?
I
next
think
week?
I'm here next week. Family in town, but I'm here for the show.
You're going to go to like Pittsburgh or something?
I
Or
wish I could go to Pittsburgh.
Peoria, Illinois, or I just like popping peas right now. All right.
Okay.
Well, on behalf of myself and the Maz, whom you can catch on Instagram at MLBJoyus, because he really wants to talk about baseball, and I'm really going to get us off the air before he really starts jibber jabbering about baseball.
I'm going to Fargo next week.
Fargo.
Yeah.
Here, okay. You want to leave a baseball bomb before we go? Yankees make the playoffs? Yes or no?
No.
All right. On behalf of myself and the Maz, say goodbye to the nice people.
See you.
We will catch you guys next week here on the Gonzo Radio Network, because the website's coming back next week because I'm renewing the handle and getting everything set back up. Go figure. So we'll talk to you guys next week, 11 a.m. here, sharp, Sunday, more football because it's football season. All right? I'm totally technically off, so we'll see you guys next week. Bye.